Kindergarten 3 has just come out, where we get transferred to a new school on the subsequent day, being Wednesday now. If you are not familiar with the Kindergarten series, make sure to watch my videos on Kindergarten 1 and 2 to get yourself up to date about the lore. Just a quick run through about the story. We get trapped in a school full of hazards and dangers, with sinister secrets lurking within the schools, with conspiracies, monsters, and human experimentations. We seem to be trapped in a Groundhog Day, repeating the same day over and over, trapped in a relentless loop until we uncover the mysteries, allowing us to break the loop and move on to the next day. It's not clear if the kid protagonist is stuck in a time loop or if he has the ability to warp the time and reset the day after each time he dies or finishes a task. Now we are on Wednesday with some new and old classmates, new staff, and a new school. As we know from before, he cannot read, and even after the first and the second day at two different schools, he still has not managed learning how to read. Going out to the schoolyard, we see a mess of a place. Nugget seems to be drenched in what appears to be biochemical or even radioactive waste, known as the green goo. The previous janitor is also present, who has sustained a really bad injury, and there is an alligator in a pond in the middle of the yard. We first talk to the new teacher. She is called Miss Lovelet, and she teaches art and music, being the very first character to rhyme in her dialogue. She is there to cast students for a Shakespeare play, not knowing most of the students cannot read. The protagonist goes to ask Nugget to join the play, with Nugget agreeing only if the protagonist, the kid wearing blue shirt, eats some of the green goo, which is the chemical waste. Agreeing to do that causes the blue shirt to get sick, going to the nurse as a result. There we meet the nurse, a middle-aged woman who is ironic to her profession. She is seen smoking in the clinic, even with a no smoking sign on the wall. She even has a sign reading "I love health," being full of contradiction. The nurse doesn't seem to be too surprised with the blue shirt being sick, already guessing that he ate some of the green goo. Luckily, she has some antidote, as it seems many kids have tried the goo already. This displays this chemical waste has been an ongoing problem that the school has dismissed from fixing. In the meantime, we see a familiar character from Kindergarten 2 being quite literally thrown off the car into the yard. It happens to be Ted, Felix's twin brother. As we know him from before, he is the more level-headed, kind-hearted twin brother compared to the more dominating and cunning Felix, who wants to get rid of Ted to be the sole heir to their rich family's company. Blue Shirt gets Ted to join the play, and subsequently he goes to Cindy, getting her to join the play as well. They go to the class where Blue Shirt has to meet the demands of the kids for them to participate in the play. Ted wants a crown, and to get the crown, Blue Shirt has to talk to Davey, the former principal's son, who has a weird obsession with the yard pond's alligator. In order to get the crown, Davey asks for the class's pet, a goldfish known as Guppy, so it can be fed to the alligator known as Linda. Going out to get more items for Cindy and Nugget, we learn how this green waste is not limited to a pipe directly leaking into the schoolyard, but that it also leaks from the taps of the school's bathroom sink. This green waste is slowly transforming Nugget into a monster, as one of his arms turns into a sharp claw, getting everything the kids wanted to act in the Miss Lovelet's play. Nugget, being slow, having limited capacity, uses his newly formed claw and pokes Ted's eye, blinding him. Despite the horrible pain that he is in, the show continues, and Nugget blinds his other eye. Miss Lovelet acts indifferent and only cares about the play, but of course this is in line with the plot of Kindergarten, with many kids getting horrible injuries. But that shouldn't be a problem, as when the day resets, all the injuries go away with the kids getting back to normal, how they used to be. As a result of helping the teacher to create the performance, she gives the protagonist a library card, which will give him access to many restricted places, including lunches with the teacher. In the cafeteria, Nugget transforms a little more, with his other arm becoming a claw. In this universe, no one really cares what happens to the kid, so it's all good and nothing to worry about. The protagonist tries to go to the library, who gets stopped by the hall monitor, who seems fidgety and scared. It's clear it's from the last game, as the janitor killed the first hall monitor and threatened this one beating him, which has caused them to be this scared, having trauma. A canon part of the plot, which didn't reset and carried on to this installment. installment. Giving the library card to the hall monitor and joining with Miss Lovelet in the library, she asks the protagonist to gather the kids from the last performance. In the cafeteria, Austin, a new kid with purple dyed hair, tells the protagonist how he really wants to throw a burger at the janitor. As he does so, the janitor, who has recently lost one of his arms to the gator outside in the pond, starts beating on Monty, a smart kid who keeps getting beaten up by the janitor. Even though he gives him a good alibi that his arms don't work after the beating that he got from the janitor says that he is not a reasonable man and goes on beating him some more. Lunch lady, who happens to be Miss Applegate, a teacher as well, comes to his rescue, explaining it was Austin who threw the burger. To Monty's surprise, the janitor doesn't beat Austin and instead recruits him to battle the alligator in the pond, which of course seems really unfair. This allows Nugget to get some more green goo as the janitor was cleaning it off, which makes him accept to go back and play in the teacher's performance. Talking to Carla, she trades the library card for distracting the lunch lady so the protagonist can leave the cafeteria and talk to Ted and Cindy to get them to act in another play again. In the meantime, the new principal announces on the telecom that he needs Alice, one of the kids, to get to his office. This is something that will keep on repeating in the other loops. The new principal, called Regis, is the previous janitor who has mysteriously risen to become the principal. And as we know from the previous installments, the principals are always up to no good. Going to get Ted, he's in a really bad state, bleeding profusely and dragging himself across the floor due to losing his eyes. The protagonist makes a deal with him that he will get the nurse if he takes part in another play. Having no other choice, being left to die, Ted goes along with this deal. As it turns out, when meeting the nurse again, she explains that the lunch lady is also a nurse, but a very bad one, talking about Miss Applegate. She then goes to patch Ted up, as it seems that she is used to kids' injuries from Miss Lovelet's plays, as she happens to want a very methodic acting, wanting kids to actually get injured for the plays. Getting all kids gathered, with Nugget now fully transformed into a mutant, the teacher explains that she wants to play the Wizard of Oz, looking for another actor to play the wizard. That's when the protagonist finds Agnes, the dumpster woman, who agrees to play as the wizard. As the play is complete, the protagonist gets a safety blanket and a book of stories, and the day is over, with many having severe injuries, Cindy being crushed to death, Ted being blinded, and Nugget having transformed, while the janitor and Austin are fighting the gator. The day is over, but as we are stuck in a loop, it is reset, with the protagonist seemingly being the only person who remembers the loop. The blanket and the book are still with the protagonist, but thankfully, all the kids are back to normal with no injuries they haven't sustained from the canon plot from previous days and installment, Tuesday and Monday. In the new loop, the protagonist talks to Emmy, a new girl who enjoys gardening. She is well-mannered and very nice, someone unlike Cindy, who has a mean girl persona. Asking Cindy to help out with her gardening, instead of being nice, she destroys the vegetables that Emmy is growing. She even spits on them just to show more disrespect. This upsets Emmy, who says that she will never forgive her for what she has done. She leaves, with Cindy, who wanted to plant flowers, being left on her own, not knowing how to do anything, as she doesn't have any skills apart from being mean. The protagonist then goes and talks to Carla, who was a kid from the last school. Carla was one of the main contributing factors helping to get the secret of the last school. She is planning to figure out the secrets from this school as well. Carla tells the protagonist to tell Austin to break the window by throwing a rock so they can crawl through it and discover the hidden secrets. The protagonist acts as a bait, getting the hall monitor, Stevie, distracted, who goes to the nurse to attend to his cut that he sustained from the broken window. As they go to the nurse is shocked seeing the state of Stevie, attending to him rather than the protagonist, as he has a superficial small cut. The protagonist uses this as an opportunity to meet back with Carla. Helping Carla to unscrew a vent grill, the recess is over with the bell ringing, forcing the protagonist to go back to class. There we see Carla being stuck in the vent and wanting to get out, but as it is too high, the protagonist needs to figure a way to help her. Talking to a student called Alice, she is being harassed by Cindy, who seems to be sharing a dollhouse, being play neighbors who don't get along. Cindy, being a horrible girl, steals Emmy's watering can and hits Alice over the face with it, which leads to her bleeding some sort of green liquid similar to the green goo. Alice was the girl who randomly got called to the principal's office in the last loop and someone who suffers from a mysterious amnesia, not remembering much. With the green liquid coming out of her, it's clear that the principal must be performing some sort of experiments on her with the green waste liquid that is seeping through the pipes and the sewage. The protagonist manages to pour some of the green goo coming out of Alice over Emmy's gardening pots, which grows into a large beanstalk, allowing him to open the vent for Carla. The recess bell rings and they go to the cafeteria. There, Carla tells him to go through the vent and get the nurse to get her to attend to Nugget, who has a broken leg as he fell from the large beanstalk. Doing so, the principal, Regis, comes to the nurse's clinic all of a sudden being panicked, asking if the protagonist saw anything, but then dismisses him and tells him to go to the study hall. It's clear he is up to something and possibly performing experiments. The study hall is like detention, as Miss Applegate watches everyone and stops them from leaving. As the protagonist sees Carla there, she is happy that he opened the vent there and asks him to open the vent in the study hall as well. He uses the vent and goes to a room where he finds Mr. Scipio, who is terrified, hiding behind boxes. He was supposed to take the job as the new janitor before the janitor from kindergarten 1 took over. He used to be a teacher, and a good one that the kids even liked. Unlike all the other teachers, he is afraid because when Regis became principal, he gave him keys to go to the janitor's room where he claims to have found monsters that led to him hiding. The protagonist takes the janitor closet's keys from him. He then goes on to the classroom where he finds the corpse of the nurse. It's not clear how she died, but as she went to see Nugget and Nugget had transformed into a monster from playing with the green goo, he is the main suspect. The school hours come to an end, and with a bell, everyone goes back home, being the end of this loop. At the end, he gets a map Carla made of all the vent system, which will stay with the protagonist for the next loop, allowing him to travel through the school easily. Starting the new loop, the protagonist talks to the janitor who explains that he lost his arm to the alligator in the pond, and he also claims that he is a veteran who was in a war. He beats the protagonist up so that he can go to the nurse and get some band-aids and bandages for his missing arm. On his way to the nurse, we have to pass through Regis' office, where Miss Applegate has been assigned as a secretary. Keep in mind that she is also acting as a nurse and also as the lunch lady. We learn there is a black bag which has been placed there by the principal. It seems to contain some sort of mysterious items. After getting the bandages, the janitor seems to want to reattach his arm, which is inside the gator's mouth, the alligator that is called Linda. After getting his arm, the janitor doesn't have enough and wants to kill the gator, ordering the protagonist to get him a new mop from the closet. In the meantime, we see the janitor getting rid of the black bag by activating its secret collapsible floor in the principal's office. It's clear Regis is up to no good, and the things that were in the black bag could be loose ends or evidence that he wanted to get rid of. As the key to the janitor's office doesn't work, we have to talk to Mr. Scipio, who says that he has the key and gives it to the protagonist. In the conversation, we learn that he has a drinking problem and drinks to cope with his fear. He is scared and reminisces on the terrible things that has happened to the kids, such as Alice. We leave him behind and go to open the mysterious janitor's closet. There we get a brand new mop and manage to set a trap to get the rabbit. We use the rabbit as a bait to lure the gator into the grass when the janitor, in a dramatic showdown, attacks the gator and kills it. He claims the gator used to serve in the war with him, who left him behind in the desert. Clearly, the janitor seems to be a little demented. As a reward, the protagonist gets a mop, as the janitor has too. The loop ends and the protagonist sleeps to wake back up in the next day to repeat the loop. This time around, we start talking to Davey, who unveils he was the son of the old principal who went missing. The gator was placed in the pond as the mascot of the school, even though the school's official mascot is supposed to be ducks. The old principal has mysteriously vanished, and Davey has kept the gator as his friend and pet. There we decide to help Davey protect the gator. The protagonist goes to the janitor and tells him to stay away from the gator, who instead gets a beating, which proves to Davey that he isn't working for the janitor. They plan to use an axe to kill the janitor, as they believe it's the only weapon which can defeat him. Through playing the Red Riding Hood play for the drama teacher, we can get the axe. In the play, Davey actually uses the axe and kills Miss Applegate, who plays as the wolf. The janitor tries to get rid of her buddy by dropping her in the pit in the principal's office, but we need to disable the control panel so it doesn't work for Davey to get the axe. In the meantime, Nugget gets the antidote and is free of the goo. But being back to normal doesn't mean that he is completely free of it, as he now has obtained the power to hear whispers and voices. He talks about someone called Kevin, someone who, like Billy from the first game, is being experimented on. Eventually managing to get the axe as the school comes to an end and the janitor is busy trying to kill the gator. Davey hits the janitor from behind in a surprise attack and kills him with the axe, which leads to the gator giving the protagonist a token of friendship, which can be later used to go to the gator's secret lair. Restarting the day, this time around we can befriend Emmy by giving her flowers as Cindy steals them from her, and we can also make her some vegan lunch. Throughout this loop, Cindy bullies Emmy and makes her cry just because Emmy is a nice girl and cares about her flowers. Cindy keeps pushing her buttons to a point that she decides to kill Cindy and get rid of her. At the very end, when Cindy destroys Emmy's garden, steals her lunch and steals her flowers, she plans an ambush by simply fixing her garden. Cindy, who is cruel and has an evil heart, doesn't like seeing Emmy being happy and fixing her garden, so she goes to destroy them again, furious that Emmy is not paying much attention to her. As she tries to destroy her garden again and insults Emmy, Emmy grows two monstrous plants who grow from the green goo, who then proceed to beat Cindy up and then eat her. As the protagonist helped her take her revenge, she gives the protagonist a rare white flower, which apparently is good at combating the effects of the green goo. In the new loop, we give the gator the token of friendship he gave us in the previous loops. Going into the secret lair, we find Kevin, the person Nugget was talking about after healing from the green goo. He seems to be an experimented on child who has transformed into a monster, something that would happen to Nugget if he wasn't treated. In this lair, the protagonist takes a green glowing cube and goes back to the surface. In this playthrough, we interact with Monty. Monty was badly beaten by the janitor in the previous installment, which as a result made him paralyzed. Talking to him, who happens to be walking now, he explains that through discovering the lab in the last game, he managed to find a piece of engineering which would allow him to walk, which seems to be a dress that he has to wear. This piece of engineering was Penny, a robot who pretended to be a student. He basically stole her skirt and reprogrammed it, which allows him to walk now. The downside is that it only can help him regain control of his legs or arms, but not both. As it happens, the green goo cube that the protagonist found in the lair has the energy to power the machinery Monty is using, which helps him gain power over his arms as well. As a reward, he gives him a pill, something that Miss Applegate was hooked on before. In the yard, we also speak to Ted, who actually happens to be Felix, the sharp wolf of the Wall Street, one of the brothers, who has been tricked by Ted and had their clothes switched. This is because the brothers are in competition to get the father's company as inheritance. Ted tends to be the kinder of the two, but now he has shown initiation to take matters into his own hands. Switching the clothes allowed him to end up in the high-profile academy instead of this horrible school full of death. Felix asks us to call the father Mr. Huxley so that he can be extracted from the school. Doing so, calling Mr. Huxley, he expresses that he is impressed by Ted and he believes that he has shown initiation to be in the academy. But for Felix, he has to stay in the school and show his worth by managing to get out of the school by himself. He does this to see who is more worthy of the two to get the company. The father tells the protagonist that he will send a care package to Felix and asks the protagonist to be his assistant. In return, he will reward him. The care package arrives from the father with the logo of their company, Applesoft, which for some reason gets Miss Lovelet really upset, causing her to mess up one of her rhymes and running off crying. We learn that her husband left her before as well, which also made her really upset. As it turns out, Miss Lovelet was supposedly dating Mr. Huxley, and she didn't know about him having kids or other women, and that is why she started crying. Using the care package, we find a phone, which will help Felix to call his family pilot and get a chopper to leave school. As a reward, Mr. Huxley gives the protagonist an antidote that can revert the goo mutation process, something that his company, Applesoft, has developed. Restarting the day, we go to the gator's lair, where we find Alice's missing diary. Giving it to her, she reads the diary to remember what happened to her, as she doesn't remember the past few days. She reads that she was playing house in Mr. Scipio's class with Kevin, the student that is now a mutant. But strangely, all the other pages are ripped out, as if someone has compromised it. In order to remember, she asks Austin to play house with her, so that she can remember what happened to her. Austin seems to have a crush on her, as when she asks him, he gets really excited. After playing Dollhouse and speaking with Mr. Scipio, we learn it's all got to do something with the slide in the playground. Also, the principal calling Alice into his office wants to throw her down into the pit. In the meantime, we see Regis talking to someone about what he's about to do and what he has already done. He knows about Kevin turning into a monster and that he wants to get rid of Alice as an assurance that he doesn't want her to remember. It seems that he's part of a bigger crime group that experiment on kids. They are seemingly redirecting some of the shipments to the academy. Soon enough, Regis calls in Alice and tries to drop her into the pit, but thanks to disabling it by cutting cables earlier, it doesn't work. He sends in Plan B, which happens to be a mutated dog called Boo Boo. But having a remote control, it shocks the dog, allowing Alice to escape. Regis, being panicked now, takes a specific remote controller and plans to go down the slide, which seems to be the secret entry to the lab maybe. There's a spare remote, which the protagonist takes after Regis leaves the office. Going into the tree hollow in the playground, we find a secret enclave where Lily and Alice are mapping out the school and trying to find the secret lab. Lily being one of the older students from the previous installments. Subsequently, the protagonist uses the remote to go through the slide, which leads to the secret lab, which happens to be the secret lair of the alligator. But this time, we can explore outside of the enclosure within the lab. In there, we find Kevin, whom Regis is pointing a gun at, trying to get rid of loose ends. Next to him, we find the previous principal, Davey's father, who went missing. David, the previous principal, reveals that this lab was created to undo the mutations of the green goo and help people affected. But instead, Regis imprisoned him and then used it to create more of the green goo. Regis activates self-destruction, wanting to overload the green goo production to get rid of all the evidence, killing the last principal in the process. He leaves, taking Kevin with him, as if Kevin is a successful experiment. That's when the protagonist arrives. He learns about the secrets and Alice remembers what she had forgotten. But as time is limited, they escape, with the lab exploding, killing David. Back in the playground, Alice explains that they were performing experiments on kids with specific genes who could withstand the mutation and the green goo, that including Billy, Kevin, and herself. That's why she had the green goo in her body when she got hit over by the watering can. The day comes to an end, but now we have a decoding magnifying glass and know about the secret lab. The day then restarts. Here we give Nugget the white flower, which counters the effects of the goo, making Nugget come to his senses and realize that he is covered in such toxic goo, seeking medical attention from the nurse to revert his condition. The goo seems to somehow make people crave it more, wanting more and more of it. Catching up with Alice and Lily, Alice remembers her past, and Lily explains that they have a plan to go to the lab and dismantle Reg's operation. Going to talk to Scipio, we give him his flask of drink, which he refers to as Flasky. He seems to be clearly struggling with booze. As this calms him down a little bit, he reveals that he went to college with Dr. Danner, the previous evil mastermind from the last installment. He and Danner discovered a gene that only expressed itself in 5-year-old kids, the kids that are in the game. When kids with that gene are exposed to the green goo, the mutation process starts. It would speed up by physical trauma. The only way to cure a mutated person is through a unique chemical mixture Applesoft has developed. Nugget gets the antidote from the nurse, the only one that she has left, and the trio, Lily, Nugget, and the protagonist go down to the lab where they face Kevin. Kevin tells Nugget that it's too late for him and tells them to run before Regis arrives, as he will kill them. Using a remote for a remote car, we manage to open the gate when Kevin stands guard, waiting for Regis to arrive in order to kill him. The kids manage to escape, hoping to return tomorrow and put an end to all of this, and maybe save Kevin and David, the old principal. The day resets yet again, but this time around we have the remote for the remote car. This time we use the nugget of friendship to directly go to the lab with the gator. Using the remote for the RC, the protagonist manages to open the gate and go outside to roam freely in the lab. Talking to David, he explains that the cure that the protagonist got from Mr. Huxley, the cure developed by Applesoft, could cure Kevin. Shooting him with the cure, Kevin uses his claws and cuts the chains off David. As the automatic self-destruct system gets activated, David uses the biometric computer to override it. David tells the protagonist to send down all the goo-infected animals, as curing them will allow him to produce anti-goo antidote from them. He takes the antidote gun and goes on to cure all the animals, including Nugget. Managing to use the antidote gun on everyone infected, they go to the lab, where they find an injured David. In the process, Miss Lovelet dies by one of the robots that Regis has produced, so this will probably stay canon for the next installments. David tells them that Kevin is in the other room, being placed in a goo extracting chamber. The injury that David has will kill him in a short period of time. David tells them Kevin is in the other room, being placed in a goo extracting chamber. The animals need to be placed there so that the chamber can cure Kevin. Going to the next room and facing off Regis unveils that the slide was originally created to scan kids for goo mutation gene and help them, but Regis turned evil, working with a specific mysterious woman to turn these kids into monsters. There is an intricate tunnel system connecting all kindergartens together, with this mysterious woman seemingly being in charge. This explains how the other two kindergartens in the previous installments all had principals who were experimenting on kids. All of these principals were probably working together, using the green goo to experiment on these kids who had the specific gene. The kids, with the help of the animals, manage to disarm Regis, and Linda comes, throwing him down into the goo pit, but as a result she falls in as well. All the kids go back to the surface, but Davey alongside the protagonist go down to rescue Linda. Down there, as both Regis and Linda have dropped in the goo, they turn into enormous monsters. They fight in the King Kong vs. Godzilla style. With the help of the protagonist, Linda manages to kill Regis. In the process, they destroy the goo core, which was producing the goo. As they try to go back to the surface, a massive explosion causes the floor to cave in and drop all the kids, including Linda and Mr. Scipio, seemingly going down to the tunnel system. This time around, the story is left on a cliffhanger, as we need to find a mysterious woman who runs the entire operation of the connected kindergartens. The kids will seemingly go to a different kindergarten now, trying to find the mysterious woman and put an end to all these experimentations. The next installment will be taking place on a Thursday. That's it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.